Hello everyone, and welcome to the official 2024 event building ranking video. My editing skills are not great, so unfortunately there won't be any flashy charts or animations, but hopefully the immense amount of information makes up for it. I'll be going through each event that took place in Forge of Empires over the past year, and ranking the buildings you could have won based on how efficiently they used their space. A few things to note. First, the ranking is not perfect and is based on my own opinion of what matters most in special buildings, namely, attack and defense boosts, forge points, goods, and army units. Second, the space that the building takes up does not count the road it may or may not need. So some of these buildings are actually worse than they appear, since you have to have at least one square of road next to them, but most likely more. Third, as a general rule, most buildings at the very top of each event list are most likely the ones that were won by players that spent money or diamonds or both, so don't feel bad if you don't have one. So with that, let's start with the wildlife event, which will actually be coming back very soon. As I mentioned, number one on this list is a building that was won by Gold League players in the top 1% of their world, but it is far and away more efficient than any other building in the event. Another thing I forgot to mention was that you'll notice smaller buildings are often higher on the list. This is because larger buildings need to do so much more and be so strong to make up for their size, they usually don't manage it. So, you'll see the level 2 versions of Alligator Swamp and Tapper Trails are next, after that first building, followed by Blood Lilies, taking up only one space. Then after that, the level 1 of Alligator Swamp and Tapper Trails again, which is finally followed by one of the main event buildings, which is a larger building. I won't read through the entire list for every event, but feel free to pause and take note of where some of your buildings fall. I'll try to put all the buildings into perspective as we go through each event and go along. For example, moving on to the St. Patrick's Day event, the first two buildings are better than the first from Wildlife. Apothecary of the Highlands Level 3 was won by Gold League players, and the Level 2 version by Silver League players, and of course Level 1 by the Bronze. Then you'll notice a collection of small buildings, like the Trees of Vitality, Silence, and Patience, along with both levels of the Celtic Glassworks, the Sheepshire, and the Rune Garden, all before the highest level of the main event building. Following the pattern, the top 3 buildings of the anniversary event are better than the top 2 of St. Patrick's. Zephyr's Fusion Drinks, level 3, 2, and 1, were awarded to the Gold, Silver, and Bronze Leagues, respectively, but unfortunately the buildings fall off fairly quickly after that. For example, the 8th best St. Patrick's building beats the 5th best anniversary building. And you'll notice again, the bigger buildings have a tough time reaching the top spots. Now, in the history event, there is an outlier. The Woodland Wager Retreat is the best building we've seen so far, and spoiler, no other building is going to beat it this year. Of course, you had to get it from the Gold League again. The rest of the buildings fall off again, with the top 4 being worse than the top of the previous events. But the Apex Grove Sanctuary puts up a good fight, taking up 24 spaces. Next, the summer event sneaks some larger buildings to the top. Captain Bow's Warehouse and Jade Booty Bar, both taking up 12 spaces, beat out the 1-space Golden Bells and Dragon Gongs. The Sailmaker buildings are also worth mentioning, before getting to the golden upgrade version of the main event building, the Crimson Dragon's Breath. The Care for Tomorrow event is a special case as well. First, because it rewarded its top buildings to almost everyone, and with 25 spaces no less. But also because it took the place of the soccer event, which I left in here for comparison. There is more depth in this group too, with the top 8 buildings beating out any previous top 8 from other events. The fall event, unfortunately, falls short, with a strong gold league building and then some mediocre followers. But the pristine sunflower oil press does pretty well with 24 spaces. And I do have a number of Royal Shroom Thrones myself. The Fellowship event has a number of strong, large buildings, with the top 6 above a score of 32, which is what I've been basing other groups off of. One thing I forgot to mention was the introduction of ascended buildings, which have a timer on them until they lose their power and either revert back to their normal self or nothing at all, like the Tourney Grounds and Forgotten Temple. You can see 2 buildings here, the Royal Carriage and the Jolly Oint Pigsty, with ascended and normal versions. I think the Halloween event had the most buildings to offer, but not necessarily the strongest. On average, the top 8 Care for Tomorrow buildings are better than the top 8 Halloween buildings. But they are proving me wrong when I say that the bigger buildings can't be space efficient. So that's something. Finally, our most recent event, the winter event. Far and away the best top group of buildings. The top 11 are higher than 42 points, let alone 32. I'm pretty sure that the main event building, the Yukitomo Empire, is the best main event building of the year. And I'm really excited to see the upgrades of the Eternal Market, which is already sitting at 60 points of efficiency. Here's a top 25 list of the event buildings ranked together. You can see that the Woodland Wager Retreat at the top, like I said, followed by a good variety of buildings from all events. The wildlife event doesn't show up until way down at 23rd place, though, so maybe something to think about for the upcoming version. And I also highlighted the buildings that have timers, which there are surprisingly few in the top 25. If you want to take a closer look at this spreadsheet, I'll leave a link for it below, but just to warn you, I do play around with it from time to time when I'm working on my own city. In the meantime, that's the end of this video. Thanks very much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. If you enjoyed this video and would want to see more, please like and subscribe. And as always, keep on jamming.